I feel full up already on this Easter Sunday, and I'm so glad to be here with you for my message today. And as Reverend Josh mentioned, it is Arise Transformed. Now, I have a practice in classes and workshops that I teach that is really important to me, and it's the opportunity at the beginning of a session for a little personal sharing. It helps people get to know each other. It helps people share good news of things that's going on. And I'll often say to people, it helps you get present if you've had a challenge in the past week, and you can speak it into the room and let people see you and hear you and just be present to you, and then you can get on with it. And I'm feeling a little bit like that. I already got to speak this out at the first service, but I'm going to speak it out again today, that I'm going through a personal challenge in my life. And about 10 days ago, my younger sister, Noelle, we have a picture of her, made her transition into the next life. Very suddenly, surprised a lot of us, though she had been ill for many years and struggled with a lot of dis-ease in her body. She left us, and we've been dealing with that as a family, and going through our grief and going through all that we go through when we watch someone move on to the next life plane. And I honestly wasn't sure I could be here today with you for Easter. And I gave some thought to turning it over to someone else because I felt like I might not be as present as I would like to be in my grief. But then it dawned on me that being here amongst my Mile High family is so healing to my heart. And I want to thank those of you who've reached out, who have called or sent a card or messaged me on social media to send your love and condolences. And I so appreciate it. And my family and I feel so lifted up and loved by you. And I send my blessings on to my sister. And I'm so sad at her loss, and yet so grateful that she no longer is suffering in her body, that she is free to flit about the universe and probably causing lots of mischief wherever she is. So thank you, Michelle Medrano. And happy Easter, my beloved sister. And happy Easter to you also. I think Easter is a very powerful holiday. And I'm going to get really present right now to the Easter story, the Easter message. I have done a lot of research and a lot of thinking about Easter over the past months. And some of my research indicates that people have some unique ways that they celebrate Easter, things I never realized, some of which I find fascinating, some of which I don't find so fascinating. For example, in Bulgaria, they throw rather than hide Easter eggs. Nah, I'm not doing that. That's not a custom I'm interested in. In Ireland, they dance in the streets on Easter Sunday. That could be fun. Right? Today as you leave, feel free to dance in the streets like the Irish do. Maybe not in the streets, just on the sidewalks, okay? In the Czech Republic, they serve plum brandy on Easter Monday. Now, that's a tradition I might enjoy. I think I might try that tomorrow. And in Egypt, this is one I don't think I would enjoy. Dr. Roger used to have us do these sunrise services on Easter. Must have been the Egyptian influence in you, right, Dr. Roger? Easter service was Saturday night until 4 a.m. Sunday. No, not doing that at all. I'm so grateful that our services are a little bit later than that. So there's lots of different ways to celebrate Easter, and I suspect that each one of us has our own Easter traditions. Some of us have family traditions. Some of us have traditions that are born out of the religion or the culture we were raised in, and some of us don't really resonate with Easter all that much, and we're not sure what our traditions might be. But I think the biggest tradition that we can begin to have with any holiday, especially one that I think has so much symbology and so much meaning for us in our human journey, is to really take time, as we're doing today by being here in a church service together, to take a deeper look at the Easter story, to take a look at the journey of the master teacher Jesus within that Easter story, and to find meaning for ourselves within the story, to apply it. I think that was his intention in his life and his ministry, is to say to us, there's power within us, and let me tell you a story that helps unlock the power and the truth within you for your own journey. And so that's what Easter gives us an opportunity to do. And so we have an agenda here today. I have an agenda to help us use the story of Easter to continue our healing journey, and whatever that might be, individually and collectively. In the first services, they were singing that last song right before I came up here, I kept seeing the image of, in the first Harry Potter book and eventually in the movie, Harry and Ron are playing this chess game where the chess pieces are live chess pieces, and the way they play, they have to go to the different parts of the chessboard, and these big stone pieces move. And at one point, when it's checkmate, this big piece takes its sword and just goes through all of the other pieces and crashes them all down, and they come crashing to the ground in little pieces of stone, and there's just the game is just destroyed and transformed. And it dawned on me that many of us may have felt like that this past week. Many of us may be feeling like that today, where something in our life has been changed dramatically, and it can feel like a sword has just come at the foundation of our lives, and we find ourselves feeling toppled and find so much of the structures of what we came to rely upon or came to see as normal or the experiences of our daily life, and suddenly they're changed. Someone has passed, something has shifted, some condition is different. Even this pandemic has to some degree toppled and changed our whole way of doing things in our life together. And I read recently that the difference between change and transformation is that change is often a choice we make. I'm going to change the way I do something. I'm going to change the way I think about something. Whereas this author suggested that transformation often comes from a deep organic place that rises up and sometimes catches us off guard, and suddenly we wake up and everything has changed about a situation or a condition or about us or about our lives. And that destruction that appears to be destruction, that toppling down of what appears to be normal, is scary, is not always welcome, is uncomfortable, is frustrating, but it's also an invitation. It's the invitation to transformation, and it pours through us. It's who we are. And I agree with the song that was just sung. We were made to rise. We were formed and fashioned in and as the presence of the living Spirit that flows through creation. We were made to rise. But I know it doesn't always feel like that. I know that there are times when that invitation for transformation can feel so discouraging and so difficult to rise out of and accept the invitation and say, okay, I'll go with it. And instead, we may find that we want to resist. We may find that we have challenge. And this is normal. In the story of Jesus' ministry, and even in the days before his crucifixion, he had doubts. The Gospels all say that as he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, he wondered if God could please take this cup away from him. He wondered if he could actually do this. He seemed to know what was in the future for him. He seemed to know what was coming down the road, what was going to happen. He seemed to understand the path he was on. And he was connected, and he was wise, and he was deeply, profoundly spiritual and conscious and aware, and still in that moment, he wasn't so sure. And so I remind us all that no matter what transformational moment has called to us, to have a moment of doubt, to have a moment of resistance, to have a moment where we just don't want to go there, is part of what can happen in this human experience. And the important thing is that we step into that deeply spiritual experience, that part of us that is the God presence, that is calling to us and is the energy and the impetus, not only behind some of those transformations, but behind what occurs next. So in the journey of this master teacher Jesus, he was crucified on a Friday, he died, and on Sunday, the Gospels say he rose. As Dr. Barry read, they went to the tomb and he was no longer there. And I've been wondering about that space in between. And recently when I was teaching our Prosperity Plus class, we were listening to a video from the great Mary Morrissey, and she said, "What happened on Saturday?" And it caught my attention. I thought, that's exactly it. That's what I want to look at this Easter. This natural born energy that calls us each to our greater and greatest yet to be, that often shows up in transformation, and that feeling as though things have been toppled, and then that feeling we've all had of triumph from the toppling, triumph from the death or the destruction or the transformation that's occurred. What happens on our Saturday? What happens in that middle ground? What happens in that space that can most assure us that we can stay on that path and move forward powerfully? How can we do that? And I think in order to do that, we have to arise to some things that we may be resistant to rise to, just as the master teacher was a bit resistant also. And yet, when we understand that resistance can be part of the journey, and we still choose, despite that, to rise into these experiences, then I think we experience great transformation. So the first thing I think we have to arise to, which we're not prone to do, is to discomfort. Arise to the discomfort. Every transformation that I've ever experienced has brought with it discomfort, because it's an invitation to move from one state of being to another state of being. And that's often not very helpful. That's not very exciting, is it? It's not very helpful. It's kind of icky at times. In fact, one of the things that I realized in this whole game of transformation that kept calling to me is that the notion of the caterpillar going to the butterfly, the cocooning that occurs. We have a picture of that process here that I just love. It's a couple cocoons. The little caterpillar forms the cocoon and spins itself into this little space, and there's like icky muck that happens inside there, and mystery, and who knows what, and maybe chaos as this transformation occurs, and then it goes to the next piece of it, and then it becomes the butterfly. But there's likely discomfort and dissatisfaction, and not so sure what's going to happen, and this feeling of the natural born sense of I am made to be the butterfly, but I have to wander, I have to go through, I have to be patient through the experience of discomfort. And I think there are two distinct types of discomfort that can come over us. It can be a discomfort that is so foreign and so unusual and so unwelcome that it tells us that we're just off track. It just says, I just can't do this. This is, I'm so uncomfortable, I just can't do this. This is not mine to do. And so I step back and I step away from it, and I see that discomfort is giving me a message. But most of us, in the midst of discomfort, will try to talk ourselves into this. There's validity to it in some ways. I know as I've approached certain paths in my transformations, I felt this sense of, oh no, you're heading the wrong direction, Michelle. You better step back. And so I'll step back and find some refreshing energy, and then step forward into another direction and find my way through the discomfort of that transformation. But it's a new way of being, a new way of seeing, a new way of thinking, a new way of living often, a new way of just existing in my life, and that every true transformation will have in it some discomfort, and we have to accept that. I think we all wish, can't my change and transformation just be easy and flow and no big deal? And yeah, maybe there are some that are like that, but most come with a bit of discomfort. And then there's discomfort that comes. The second part is when we're being pulled deeply and profoundly towards that powerful transformative moment. And that is where it can be easy to step away and to stop and to say to ourselves, this isn't worth it. I don't want to do this. I remember that feeling when I was giving birth to my son at one point. That's one way that I can kind of get my head around this, that discomfort when I know something amazing is seeking to happen through me, but it's really strange and uncomfortable, but I got to go with it. I've got to step into it. I can't turn around now. I've got to keep moving. And so that can be how it is to birth transformation, to stand in the midst of it and just allow ourselves to go with it. And so being willing to be at peace and to say to ourselves very simply, this discomfort that I'm feeling is not a sign necessarily that something is wrong, but it's a sign that something in me is transforming. And I'm going to be patient and loving and kind to myself, but I'm going to walk this path. Truly, truly, that is what Jesus had to do to be resurrected. He had to walk through suffering. He had to walk through some of the greatest sufferings that we humans could ever imagine. Great discomfort. But he had the spiritual courage to say, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to step forward into this because I know the transformation that is on the other side of it. So we have to arise into our discomfort for transformation to occur. And we have to arise into the unknown. We have to step into the unknown, and this can be very uncomfortable for us because we humans, our egos tend to pride ourselves on what we know. Our education system often made it important that we know what we know, and so when we feel like we don't know what's going to happen, it can be very uncomfortable. This is a part of the discomfort that we experience in transformation, is the surrender into the unknown. And so people will say to us, you're going to do what? You don't even know what's going to happen. You're going to go where? You're going to step into, well, what's going to happen when you do that? And we don't know. And we're afraid sometimes to say, I don't know. And so we'll say, well, I don't know. And I'd love the day would come when we'd say, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting, isn't it? I'm going to surrender into it because I'm surrendering into, when I surrender into the unknown, I'm surrendering into that deep mystical process that is having its way with me, where I can feel and sense the transformation that's coming, but I can't always see it. I can't always see exactly what it looks like, exactly where I'll be, exactly who'll even be there with me through it. But I feel the pull. I feel the call to it. Just like the caterpillar cannot necessarily see itself as the butterfly. And yet, there is something inherent within it that it knows, that it knows, that it knows that this transformational moment is powerful and profound. And I'm going to continue to walk through the unknown. And it requires of us then that we place our faith in something bigger than us, and something greater than us, in an aspect of ourselves that has been guiding the process of transformation all the time and shall continue to guide that process of transformation even in the midst of it. Even in the midst of it. And so in his final moments, as Jesus is there on the cross, there are two other men who've been crucified, and they're complaining about it and saying, well, you shouldn't be here. And Jesus looks at them and says, Today we shall be in paradise. Today we shall be in paradise. And there's a part of us, when transformation comes knocking on our door, that can surrender like Jesus did to that journey. And to say, I'm not sure where this is taking me, but I'm going to so listen and stay awake and stay alive in the journey that I'm going to follow it so that I can arise transformed. One of the greatest challenges for us when transformation shows up is not to ignore it. As I said, not to let the discomfort of it keep us from going there, and not to play dead in the midst of it. When I was thinking about how we play dead sometimes, I'm thinking about how we just pretend and we just keep pushing it aside, and we just keep pretending that we're not hearing that knock on our soul's door. We just keep pushing it aside. And I kept getting this vision of a cartoon that my husband Ken and I enjoy very much, the Over the Hedge movie, where these two possums are little characters in the movie, and anytime anything dramatic starts to happen, they just fall down and play dead. As possums will do. And the man who voices the father possum is William Shatner. And he's very dramatic. His death scenes are very, oh, Rosebud. He's very dramatic in it. And some of us will do that. Transformation comes and we just say, I'm playing dead. Oh, Siri's talking to me in a different language.
Japanese.
Oh no, I just turned Siri's into a German voice. I hope I can understand. Siri went. And so we have to beware that we don't play dead. Playing dead is pretending that that light isn't within us. Pretending that this transformation doesn't have something amazing for us. Pretending that we're a victim. Pretending that we're powerless. Pretending that we're helpless. We may feel those things at times. But those of us who will walk through and arise transformed will recognize that that's often the part of us that has forgotten who we are, that is afraid, and it's understandable, and it's normal, and yet we stand as witness to each other, calling each other, humanity in general, and calling the people in our lives forward in the transformational process that Jesus awoke to in his lifetime and told us time and time again is the truth of us, that the kingdom of heaven is within us, that the Father that he resonated with is the Father that is within all beings, and told us that the things that he did, we could do, and greater things. Jesus did not play dead ever. He rose to the occasion, even when it was hard. He rose to the occasion, even when the people turned against him. He rose to the occasion every chance that he could, even in the midst of occasional resistance, occasional frustration. He rose because he remembered the truth of who he was, and that is our call, our invitation constantly. Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teacher, talked about how transformation is like, evolution is like this spiral that we're ever moving up towards and ever up on. And that every transformation is an invitation towards that, as Jesus reminded us. Because truly the goodie is not the thing that happens, the ultimate outcome. The true goodie, the true gift of these transformational invitations are who we become. So I ask us this Easter, in the midst of pandemic, in the midst of whatever conditions we are facing, are we paying attention to the evolutionary journey that is calling to us, deeply calling to us, and the reminder of the I am that I am, that is within us, that is our strength, that is our light, that is our truth, that can transcend any discomfort, that can walk through the unknown, and that brings us into full life. I counted no less than 10 incidents in the Gospels where Jesus is reported to have brought someone back to life. I honestly am not sure if he literally did that or he symbolically did that. But what I do know is that we together, in this moment we're in time and space, are coming back to life, aren't we? We're stepping back into life together. We're stepping back into being together. And there is, in this Easter message, this opportunity to constantly remind ourselves and live from that place where we walk forward fully alive and aware through our transformations and call each other back into the full aliveness of our being. There is an author named Megan McKenna, a prolific and powerful, profound Catholic writer. And she had something so beautiful to say about this coming back from the dead. She says, once in a parish mission, when I was studying a scripture, Luke 7, chapters 11 through 17, which is one of those incidents where Jesus brought someone back from the dead, she was studying this with a large group, and someone called out harshly, "Have you ever brought someone back from the dead?" I'd been saying before that life happens when we are interrupted, and that some of the most powerful acts of resurrection happen to the least likely people, that we are the people of resurrection and hope, called to live passionately and compassionately with others, to defy death, to forgive, and to bring others back into the community, to do something that is life-giving, that fights death and needless suffering. And then this challenge from the back of the church. And she goes on to say, my response was yes. Every time I bring hope into a situation, every time I bring joy that shatters despair, every time I forgive others and give them back dignity and the possibility of a future with me and the community, every time I listen to others and affirm them in their life, every time I speak the truth in public, every time I confront injustice, yes, I bring people back from the dead. I think Easter is calling us to arise, transformed, beyond the grave, beyond death, to remember the life that surges through us at every moment, and to walk boldly through every transformation that life has offered to us, accepting the invitation, feeling the discomfort, stepping into the unknown, but always with a yes in our heart and our soul.